Stop your scroll, bruh. This is not just another parliamentary squabble. We're about to plunge into a drama so thick, you'll need a life jacket. Julius Malema versus Lt General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, explosive secret files being dropped, procedures being challenged, and the very integrity of South Africa's law and order architecture on the line. Welcome to @Global Pulse News. Stay sharp because this one is wild. We're going to walk through 5 major facts because top 10 would be too long and we want crisp impact of what's going on. Each fact stretched out, richly detailed, South African flavor, English clarity, humor here needed, punchy transitions that keep you wanting the next one. Let's dive in. Here we go. At center stage, Julius Malema, firebrand, leader of the economic freedom fighters, speaker of brim-charged statements, man not afraid to point the microphone in the face of power. On the other side, Lt General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, senior police official, previously provincial commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, now testifying in front of Parliament's ad hoc committee probing allegations of corruption, political interference, and collusion in the criminal justice system. Now the stage. In July 2025, President Cyril Ramaphosa established the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry to investigate allegations of criminality, political interference, and corruption in the criminal justice system. Mkhwanazi was a key witness before that commission. Now he's appearing before a parliamentary ad hoc committee. In South Africa's halls of power, this is not everyday tea. The police, the prosecutors, the intelligence agencies, the politicians, they all dance carefully around each other. Malema storms into the process and says, no, hold up. There's something wrong with the paperwork, with the statement you've brought, with the way you're standing before us. That's where the fireworks begin. So think of it like a boxing ring. On one corner, Malema, gloves on, spotlight blazing. On the other corner, Mkhwanazi, gloves on, but the rules of the ring are being challenged. Is the bout legit? Are the referees correct? Is the contract signed? That's the vibe. Transition. But you know what? It isn't just about who's in the ring, it's about what document they brought with them. Let's open the file. Here's where things go from political theater to dossier detective work. Mkhwanazi presents a body of alleged evidence, documents, communications, internal messages, reports that claim to show collusion among senior police, intelligence operatives, prosecutors, and yes, politicians. For example, he has accused certain journalists of acting as conduits for parallel state agendas, leaking intelligence, shaping narratives, and interfering with investigations. Inside politic, but Malema's eyes go straight to the technicalities. He says, "Where's the original statement you submitted to Parliament? All we've got is a supplementary statement, which you say deposits work done before the Madlanga Commission. But we haven't got the primary statement, so you're not properly before us." In one clip, Malema says, "There is no such original statement, and therefore General Mkhwanazi is not properly before us," which is a power move. He's saying, you might have files, you might have claims, but you haven't followed the chain of evidence that Parliament requires. And if you haven't followed that, you're playing on shaky ground. Now, you might ask, why does this matter so much? Because in law and order systems, especially when state institutions are being scrutinized, procedure isn't just an annoyance, it's the backbone. If you say, we have documents, but the documents aren't properly submitted, titled, sworn, or owned by the right branch of government, the push and pull of legitimacy begins. Malema warns that future generations will search the archives and find nothing from Mkhwanazi's statement in Parliament. Think of it like this. You're building a house of cards. You might have the top cards, the claims, the leaks, but if you don't have the base, the properly lodged and certified statement, the whole thing can collapse. And Malema's pointing to the base and saying, you're missing the foundation. So yes, we've got files, we've got statements, but what about decisions made on those files, the actions that sprang from them? That's where the rubber hits the road. Now we move to action. Mkhwanazi doesn't just allege a dark nexus behind closed doors, he names decisions. The disbandment of special task teams, for instance, the KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team, the manipulation of investigative processes, and interference in how investigations are pursued. Malema's counter is on point. He says, if you're going to tell us you shut down that task team, show the ministerial memo, show the directive, show the chain of command. Because reports without documentation are just rumors. That kind of exchange happened live in the committee room. So what does this mean in real terms? It implies that high-profile investigations, the ones that deal with politically sensitive issues or organized crime or corruption, may have been weakened or neutralized. If a task team designed to dig into political killings gets dismantled under unclear circumstances, the implications are huge. It raises the question, why was it dismantled? Was it incompetence? Was it sabotage? Was it political interference? In South Africa, where crime rates and corruption are already major public concerns, these decisions don't exist in a vacuum. They affect the perception of the police's ability to investigate, prosecute, and hold accountable. And when you see the likes of Malema biting on these decisions, making them public, pushing them in the committee, turning them into televised struggle, you begin to feel that what's at stake is less about a single general and more about the integrity of the institutions themselves. Let's use a local analogy. It's like the foundation of a building starts to fail. You don't see the cracks in the facade yet, but the plumbing is leaking, the wiring is shorting, the floorboards are warping. You still get daily life in the house, but the trust that the house will hold is gone. That's what we're looking at here. Transition. So yes, we've got players, we've got statements, we've got decisions, but what exactly is at stake for the country and for you, the viewer? Let's unpack the stakes.
Here's where the drama expands beyond Parliament and becomes national. If the allegations stick, if what Mkhwanazi and Malema are doing turns out to validate systemic wrongdoing, then it's not just about so-and-so made a mistake, it becomes about the trust in the police, in the prosecutorial process, in intelligence agencies, in the very fabric of public accountability. Malema is positioning himself as more than an opposition leader. He's casting himself as a defender of transparency and accountability, for better or worse. Meanwhile, the government, under President Ramaphosa, is under pressure. This commission, this committee, they were both established on his watch. So if the outcome is explosive, it reflects on the presidency and the ruling party. But it's not only the political parties. Think of everyday people. You pay taxes, you expect your neighborhood to be safe, and you expect state institutions to function. When senior police officers testify that journalists are part of a parallel state agenda, or that decisions were taken out of sight, or that task teams were dismantled improperly, you begin to wonder who watches the watchers? Who is accountable? And if that trust is eroded, public cooperation, public morale, and public safety suffer. Malema's objections about the statement's validity aren't mere procedural nitpicking. They're a strategic attempt to expose that the system might be rigged against proper scrutiny, and that the public has a right to know, to see that the files exist, that the statements are registered, that if you're going to accuse senior figures, you better have your paperwork in order. Imagine you're driving on the N3 from Durban to Johannesburg, and you see a bridge that's visibly sagging. You wouldn't want to cross it without checking underneath. These institutions are the bridge. If the testimony shows it was weakened by corruption or interference, the risk climbs. And politically, a lot rides on this. For the EFF, Malema gains credence. For the ruling party, the risk of losing legitimacy rises. For civil society, this is a test of whether commissions and committees are more than window dressing. It is a moment where the public will look and ask, does justice actually work here? Because you're watching at Global Pulse News, you're not just watching the theater, you're part of understanding the outcome. But you might ask, okay, so this is all important, but so what for me? Let's unpack why this matters for you. Yes, you, whether you're in Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, or anywhere when the integrity of the police, intelligence, and justice systems is questioned, it filters down. Funds get misallocated, investigations stall, crime flourishes, public trust vanishes. Picture your local police station being under-resourced because priority investigations got shifted somewhere else for political reasons. Picture prosecutors being influenced because of leaked communications or parallel state interference. Picture the news headline about a politician walking free, not because evidence was lacking, but because the investigative architecture failed. That's the possible ripple here. Malema's work, Mkhwanazi's testimony, the commission's findings, they might trigger reform, but they might also trigger cover-ups. And understanding which side wins is something that should matter to every citizen. Because if the institutions we rely on to protect us are compromised, we're left standing in the rain. For young people, your generation, this is about the legacy. Suppose you inherit a system where statements aren't properly lodged, where task teams can be dismantled without transparency, where the media might be pressure tested by senior officers accusing them of acting for a parallel state. In that case, the future you navigate is different. It's less stable. It's less safe. It's less equal. And for viewers of @Global Pulse News, this story isn't just South African. It signals to the rest of Africa and the world. When nations struggle to ensure their state institutions work independently and transparently, corruption thrives, governance weakens, and the average citizen pays the price. We're right here at that intersection. So keep your eyes on this case, because what happens here doesn't just stop in the committee room. It resonates in every town, every street, every voter's mind. Transition to wrap. All right, we've broken it down, but the final question, what happens next? In the immediate horizon, the ad hoc parliamentary committee will reconvene, likely seeking amendments to the documentation, clarifications about the statements, and possibly calling more witnesses. There's pressure to conclude with some interim report. Meanwhile, the Nhlanhla Commission continues its broader investigation into state interference and corruption. There are two broad possibilities. Path A, the commission and committee lead to transparency, documents get released, senior figures held accountable, and reforms begun. In that scenario, public trust improves. Malema can say, "We held them to account." The institutions get a chance to reaffirm their neutrality. Path B, the process stalls. Documents remain incomplete or classified, decisions are delayed, and the status quo persists. That scenario deepens cynicism, reinforces the narrative that power protects itself. My gut tells me we'll see a blockbuster interim finding in the next few months, something that jolts public attention. But whether it becomes a catalyst for change or is quietly buried is the big question. Final word. This is more than a political scrap. It's a test of systems, institutions, transparency, and trust. And you, the viewer, are in a seat with a front row ticket, whether you like it or not. Stay aware, stay curious, because the implications matter. If you found this breakdown sharp and you want me to dig into the next reveal, because, yep, there's more where this came from, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and drop a comment below. Which side do you think will win? Malema's push for accountability or the forces of inertia? I want to hear your take. Thanks for watching @Global Pulse News. Stay bold, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.